Welcome into this special Monday edition of On Texas Football. My name is Gerry Hamilton, joined by CJ Vogel. What we're going to talk about today is our rankings of the top 5 quarterbacks on the Texas schedule next year in 2026, or this year now in 2026, next season. We're going to do that with an asterisk that Trinidad Chambliss would be our number 1, but while he fights for getting one more year at Ole Miss, we're going to leave him out of this top 5 since there's no guarantee that he will be back for 2026. So again, that asterisk is that Trinidad Chambliss would be number 1, but we will not break down our why on that because we don't know if he'll be eligible. So what we're going to do is we're going to rank 5. So we'll start with 5, go backwards to 1. Then we're going to have a wild card pick. And then at the end of this video, we're going to say where we'd rank Arch Manning on this list just overall as a quarterback. All right, CJ, you get the first crack at this. Number 5 on your list before I say who's my number 5.
Number 5 for me, it feels weird going back to Florida, even though DJ Lagway isn't there, but it's Aaron Philo coming out from Georgia Tech. We only got to see him one time last year against Gardner-Webb, but 21 of 28 for 373 yards. Sign me up. He's got a big, explosive arm here. I know that we've been on the road this winter as well, talking a lot about what we've been hearing about this kid as well. Folks are excited in Gainesville. It sounds like this is going to be a big-time player in the SEC, and I'm buying the hype. I think this is going to be one of the top guys that we see on the Texas schedule in 2026.
Yeah, and he's going to have some pressure on him too because they have the parts around him. He walks into a situation with Jaden Ball, Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown. I mean, he walks into a pretty good situation at tight end at Florida returns, see what they do with that offensive line, but he's got really good parts around him. My number 5, I went with Marcel Reed, and I went, I'll talk more about Philo in a few minutes on mine, but I went with Marcel Reed just on the experience factor. Look, Marcel Reed last year completed 62.1% of his passes, 3,169 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's why CJ did not have him 5. That's why I almost didn't have him 5. I just think there's too many errors, and I think he can't. His sack 6'1", 180, 185. He's a threat for quick darting runs, but in the SEC, staying on your feet when you get hit, I think he's can be easy to get to the ground at times despite his movement skills. I have him number 5, and I would say this. He's a distant number 5 for me. Like him and number 4, there's a separation there.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure everybody knows that. I think there's 4 guys, and then there's a little bit of a drop-off there. CJ, who'd you go with at number 4? I think we're actually the same on number 4.
I actually made a quick flip there. Gerry, to be fair, it's the drop back ability that, for Marcel Reed, I don't have him on my top 5 here. He's just inside the pocket, not a guy that I trust. And to your point, distant 5, he's even further down my list a little bit. But 5, I made a quick change here. And I do have John Mateer in my top 5. And I know folks are going to be loving this one in the chat here, Gerry. I understand it. But look, I think he's a gamer. And I think in the SEC at the quarterback position, you got to have some gamer ability to you, right? The statistics last year, they fell off a cliff, right? Especially towards the back end of that 2025 season when that OU offense was abysmal. It just frankly was. He was errant throwing the passes. He was missing high and right and then low and left. And what does that tell you? Mechanics weren't great. The arm slot wasn't there. But altogether, when they needed big plays, somehow he found a way to will them down the field and make plays. And look, I think he will get better. Obviously, it's one thing to have hand surgery on your throwing hand in the middle of a season. So we'll see what that looks like going into 2026, Gerry. But ultimately, he's my number 4. What do you got it for?
I got John Mateer as well because I agree. He is a gamer, and he brings toughness, and he brings a will to win to Oklahoma, and they would not have been in the playoff without him, clearly, playing through the injury like he did. Look, I would say this. I think my concern why he is 4 for me is what you were talking about. He wasn't an accurate quarterback at Washington State, so why would he be an accurate quarterback in the SEC? Yeah. And that was kind of proven out to me, but he evades rush. He moves chains. He has some big wins under his belt on the road in the SEC, Alabama, Tennessee, back-to-back, beat Michigan at home, right? So he's had some big wins. And here's the one thing we know about a guy that is a gamer like this, that probably when he's sitting alone watching the national championship game night saying, I wasn't nearly as good as I should have been. He gets one more crack at it. And I think he will be an improved player in year 2 because the SEC is so much different than playing at Washington State. And then, like you said, playing through injury. He's a solid 4. I place him well ahead of Marcel Reed. I will actually say this. I think if they switch quarterbacks, I think A&M may have beat Miami. That's how much of a difference I think there is between Mateer and Marcel Reed.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all, Gerry. You go ahead and give me your third as well. Yeah. That way we can get a little snake going. So I'm not taking all the first picks.
I'm going Kamario Taylor, and this is a big upside pick for me. Yes, he lost the Ole Miss game, but hey, here's the ball for the first time in a meaningful game in your career, and you throw for 178 and rush for 173. Not a lot of guys have that ability against Ole Miss. Who went to the national semifinals, by the way, and in a big game in the state of Mississippi in the Egg Bowl. Look, he's a big body. He's going to be hard to bring down. I think that's a very quarterback-friendly offense. I do think they can put enough pieces around him. He's going to have a run game to go along with him. I think that's going to help maximize him as a college player. I think he has a big arm. He can stretch the field. I think he is a playmaker with his feet in the pocket, outside the pocket. I think this guy has a chance to if he was at a program with a lot of talent, upper tier SEC around, I'd be putting him in a Heisman conversation. I think he's that talented of a player, guys, but because he's in a really good offensive system, is he going to have enough around him? It's the same thing I said about Lenora Sellers. Can you put enough around them to where when that adversity or that little decline hits, is he going to have enough around them to help him out of it and help him through it? I think that's going to be the key. But Kamario Taylor, I think, is a stud in college football in the next 2 or 3 years, CJ.
I don't disagree, and you'll see why here in a minute as well. But no, I'm with you. I think he's untapped. Maybe isn't the right word because we saw glimpses, but that ceiling is significantly higher than I think many expect on a national level. My third is actually going to be Sam Leavitt.
Yeah.
And I put Sam Leavitt and John Mateer. I mean, that's writing up the same word in just a different font for me. They're very similar quarterbacks. They come from the same tree. Gamers, not necessarily the most refined passer, but when you need them to get a first down or need them to move the sticks or make a big play, they seemingly find a way. Now, I thought 2 years ago when Texas saw Arizona State in the Peach Bowl, he was more a passenger on that ship that was led by Cam Scatterboot, right? Obviously, this year he battled injuries, but we saw steps forward in the right direction. Still, the one reason why I don't have him any higher is that game against Mississippi State. It was abysmal for him. Right? They lose that game, and for me, knowing that he's now in the SEC at an LSU where folks are going to give him their best every single week, that scares me a bit. That's why I'm tapping the brakes a little bit. In that game, he was 10 of 22 for 88 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. And again, you lose that game on the road after going to the playoff, and I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, what else will he be able to do against SEC caliber defenses? So that's why I have him at 3, Gerry. But my number 2, I'm going right back to I have Kamario Taylor there as well. Yeah. And again, I just think the running ability, what is he, 6'4", 230, probably going to add another 5 to 10 going in next year. The ability to break tackles, the breakaway speed is there. I think that's a very quarterback-friendly offense as well. And look, they just reloaded at wide receiver as well. They're going to have the speedy guys to make the deep ball work once again. But it's what he does with his legs. You mentioned that Ole Miss game running for 170. The last 5 weeks of the year, he had runs of 20, 23, 18, 39, and 16. It's a big play waiting to happen. Average 5.6 on the season with 8 touchdowns and not much game time. So I'm a big fan of this kid, and I don't think it's far-fetched to say Heisman could be obviously something that would be in consideration for him if Mississippi State, gets out of the dumpster of the SEC standings.
Yeah, so my number 2 is probably going to surprise people. I have Julian Sayin. And here's why I have Sayin. I respect the heck out of his ability to be an accurate quarterback. Now, he plays with great parts around him. Not good, but great parts around him. So he gets to play in clean pockets a lot of the time. Here's why I have him number 2, though, because he doesn't have that ability on his feet to go make plays. Yeah. He was negative 44 yards rushing. He is a pocket passer. He has to have really good parts around him. He has to have a really good offensive line to protect him, to give him time. If that happens, he may be the most accurate quarterback in college football. I don't think any ifs about it. He completed 77% of his passes in a major conference this year. But that lack of ability to make plays with his feet, I think in the college game, really for me, and that doesn't mean he can't win a Heisman with the talent around him at Ohio State. That lack of ability to make plays with his feet, especially in the college game, is what knocks him down a notch for me, because I think if he had some athletic ability, they'd be playing tonight. And I think that is a big difference for Julian Sand with the guy I'm going number one. So CJ, who is your one? And I'll throw mine out because mine's going to be pretty controversial, obviously.
Mine is Julian Sand. And I think you mentioned it there just briefly. The arm talent alone, when you start looking at the other names on this list, he's in a different stratosphere with his arm than the other guys, right? John Mateer, Sam Levitt, Kamario Taylor's a bit unproven with the arm. Marcel Reed, certainly not in that conversation. But when it comes down to what he can do inside a clean pocket, I think he's different than the rest of those guys. I totally understand. And I even wrote it down in the last 3 games they played. They beat Michigan, lost to Indiana, lost to Miami. He had 5 touchdowns, 4 picks, and he was sacked 10 times. Yeah. So there's that extra element with his legs that doesn't show up like it does with a Levitt, with a Mateer, with a Taylor, with a Reed. So I get that, but it's all about how dangerous will he be against the Texas Longhorn team? Well, we saw that with the training wheel still on week 1, making plays to Carnell Tate, the throws to Jeremiah Smith. I sat there and said, man, it never felt like he was flustered in his first career start against the number 1 Texas Longhorns. I was impressed, and I'm eager to see how much the training wheels come off and they start to weaponize him more in 2026. But that arm talent alone that lands him at 1 for me.
Yeah, my number 1 will definitely be controversial. I have Sam Levitt 1, and there's a number of reasons why. The first one is I think he made a great college choice.
Yeah,
going to play for Lane Kiffin.
Oh yeah.
If anybody can unlock everything Sam Levitt has and put him in positions to be as successful as possible, it's Lane Kiffin. Now, here's my caveat with that before I get to the why as a player. I'm worried about his foot a little bit because I don't think he's going to be available for spring practice. So how long will it take him to pick up that system? And I also hope he blocks out the noise around him, which I think became a little bit of an issue at the end of his time at Arizona State. I hope he uses this final year in college, blocks out the noise, and maximizes it. Now, I'll say this. I think he is extremely talented. I think he's the gamer, like we were talking about with John Mateer, but a guy that's going to throw it like an NFL player. And Lane Kiffin's going to put him in positions to do that to the best of his ability. But I think in the SEC, look, he has enough size. He has enough playmaking ability. But because he's a better thrower, I think, of the football than a Mateer, than a Marcel Reed, I just think that match with Lane Kiffin, I think, is going to be really, really good for Sam Levitt. And he's going to have the parts around him at the skill position. He's got the speed around them at running back position, and we know how Lane Kiffin's going to use those. So I think he is going to be double dangerous at LSU this year, assuming that foot is healthy.
He also takes care of the football at a high pace as well. Yep. So that's something, again, that when you compare the rest of the list here, he gets that check mark as well, Gerry. I like it. I like Sam Levitt at 1. I obviously had him a little bit lower, but to each their own. That's why we're having this conversation here.
Who's your wild card? Because there are some sneaky good quarterbacks not on this list. Mine's going to be Aaron Philo. I'll tell people why in a second, because I'd mentioned that earlier when you've had Philo 5, which I like. Who is your kind of wild card on this schedule?
Yeah, it's going to be in the season opener. It's right down the road, right down a little south I-35, Brad Jackson at Texas State. And I'm not sitting here saying this guy's going to come in and put up ungodly numbers against Texas. But look, he's a true dual threat guy, over 740 rushing yards. He had 17 rushing touchdowns, also while completing more than 71% of his passes, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That was a high-flying offense down in San Marcos. It was an abysmal defense as well. That's why their season didn't go according to plan. But look at this. Final 4 games of the year as well, Gerry. They won all 4. 16 total touchdowns, 8 rushing, 8 passing, only 1 interception. I think this is a big-time player at the G5 level. And
I'll say this, too. Texas gets him when he's fully healthy. Yep. So he's probably going to look really good before he starts taking hits, especially the way he plays. Texas is going to see him at his most healthy. I went back and forth with mine. I think Owen McCown's a really good player, and I think Jeff Traylor and those guys do a great job with him. So I don't really think he's a wild card for me. I probably actually would have had him like number 7 on my list. But I did go with Aaron Philo because, look, I think Aaron Philo is going to have a better year than DJ Lagway would have at Florida. And I say that for a multitude of reasons. One is OC, right? There's familiarity there. He's a seasoned guy that's got to sit on the sidelines and watch and really study the game and learn the game and has enough experience to where it's not going to feel like the MIGs are flying at him in his first start at Florida with the pressure of that. And he's also got really good weapons around him. And he has the arm to maximize Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, the speed at the Florida offense, get the ball to the tight end. He's got Jaden Baugh behind him. I mean, he has got really good parts around him. I mean, they're all NFL players around him. We'll see what that offensive line is like. But I think Aaron Philo, he is going to really surprise people in the SEC this year. If the college coaches, I think we've all talked to about this kid, end up being correct. And the people that covered him in high school. They all look, there's a reason Georgia Tech fought so hard to keep him after his first year there when he could have transferred out and been a starting quarterback. But they paid him like a really good quarterback to stay at Georgia Tech. So I had him. So, CJ, here's the question. I think we know the answer. I'm going to throw this one out. Where would Arch Manning rank on this list? If we ranked Arch Manning with this group of 5 quarterbacks we've just talked about.
He'd be number 1 for me. And I think the only guy right now that I feel like would compare to him would be Trinidad Chambliss, assuming he's eligible for 2026. And that's, again, I thought Chambliss in the back half of 25, and especially in that playoff run, he looked Michael Penix-esque to me. So I don't know if that's even sustainable for a full season, right? But no, what we saw in the leaps and the growth that we saw with Arch, especially with his legs, especially with his decision-making, right? We came away saying, I don't feel like he's putting the ball at risk over the last, 5 or 6 games of the year. And that's against 3 top 15 teams and a Michigan team that has top 20 talent. So no, I thought Arch was fantastic and really coming out of that Citrus Bowl, Gerry, for me, I felt very confident saying that was the best player on the field. He took full control of that game. And anytime he needed an answer or Texas needed a big play, he said, let me just take care of this. And that's what your best player needs to do. That looked like the best player on the entire field. And I think that's the best quarterback in the country going into 2026.
And I would have a number 1, 2 on that list. If Trinidad Chambliss was on this list, it would be pretty tight for me as a college player. I think Chambliss just there's something with that kid in his terms of his spirit and just the way he plays for a guy that came from D2 football to do what he did this year.
Yeah.
There's a little something there with this kid that I don't think anybody still maybe understands yet. So if he gets another, it gets interesting. So think about this, Texas fans, and any other fans that are watching this. Think about the TV ratings coming this year for Texas quarterback matchups. I mean, Texas, saying an Arch, part 2. Arch and Mateer, part 2. Arch and Reed, part 2. Arch and Sam Levitt at night at LSU. We could go on and on and on if Chambliss is there, Arch versus Chambliss. The TV ratings are going to be the big winner no matter how this list shakes out. The TV ratings are going to be a big winner for Texas football and the quarterback matchups this year, CJ.
Yeah. One school we didn't even talk about was Tennessee, whether it's George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, right? That's a 5-star freshman coming in. We'll see what that team looks like, but you can almost guarantee when Texas heads to Neyland, that is going to be one of the more watched games of the season as well, Gerry.
Oh, yeah, because Peyton Manning will probably be on the field. He'll be somewhere in that audience or on the field for that game. All right, for CJ Vogel, I'm Gerry Hamilton. Thanks for tuning in to this kind of look at the top quarterbacks on the Texas 2026 schedule. Here in a couple of weeks, myself, CJ Rod, we're going to rank all the SEC quarterbacks. We're going to let the dust settle, see if we get an answer on Trinidad Chambliss, if he's going to be part of the Ole Miss program next year. For CJ, I'm Gerry. Thanks for joining in, and we'll talk to you next time.
Welcome.